They finally brought Godspeed onto the show. We saw him behind the scenes. We had no idea what it was going to look like. There were a couple big changes from the comics, so I'll explain what those were. But they were basically doing Nora's backstory in the future past of Nora's story, but it played like a highlight reel from season 1 and season 2 of Barry's storyline, condensed down into 42 minutes. There's a new round of the giveaway for the DC streaming service subscription. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave a Flash or Godspeed related comment on the video. Careful for spoilers if you haven't seen the episode yet. Do top 10 WTF and comic book Easter eggs, starting with number 10. Welcome to 2049, Nora's backstory. So they open the episode with the exact same scene that they opened the pilot episode with Barry Allen when he was an adult. He's late to the crime scene. The joke is that he's the fastest man alive, but he's constantly late to everything when he's not acting as the Flash. So in that same vein, Nora is late running to everything. The Dayton truck is a reference to Steve Dayton from the Doom Patrol, who's a character that wore a costume with a lightning bolt on it briefly. His powers are telepathic. He was actually featured on a recent episode of the Doom Patrol as a member of the OG comic book Doom Patrol from the golden age of comics. But in the episode, she starts out searching for a speedster. She has this weird mystery board like Barry has when he's searching for the Reverse Flash. So there were a lot of Godspeed moments that were parallels for the Reverse Flash's biggest moments in season 1, as well as Zoom during season 2. Some of Nora's dialogue in the episode was even lines that they lifted from Barry that he said during the first and second season. Like they were literally just copying and pasting lines of dialogue, especially Reverse Flash from season 1 and now when he was teaching her to try to phase. Number 9, Nora's special sweatpants friend here, Leah, is a version of Barry's mother combined with Cisco, sort of like the person that helps her out, but then also later gets killed in the episode. Something about their first scene together just played way too on the nose. They were way too Nancy Drew about it, way too overdone, overacted. I just knew that they were going to pull the rug out from under us. Something weird is going to happen to this character. I know they ham it up sometimes on The Flash in the name of comedy, but usually when they go way too over the top, it's right before some big twist. Obviously, Nora's a CSI, just like Barry is in the future, so they're using his old office, but they make it look kind of futuristic, like you're at the Apple store or something like that. You notice that their gauntlets are sort of like the futuristic version of iPhones that Nora is using as her gauntlet in her mobile emitter for the version of Gideon that she's carrying around with her. They banter about speedsters. Apparently her friend is a huge Jesse Quick fan who's either dead or gone or cut off on Earth 2, because the way they talk about speedsters is that they're not around anymore, so I'm guessing that either in the multiverse something happened during Crisis on Infinite Earths, or for whatever reason they've just been cut off from the multiverse, so they can't travel between Earths, so there are Flashes that are still alive in present day on other Earths, they just can't travel to our Earth at this point. There was a lot of Crisis stuff at the end of the episode, especially with Barry's special message to Nora. They really tried to hide what his costume looked like too. I'll talk about that in a second, because in that message, he's wearing the final version of the Flash costume. She references Barry, Jay Garrick, then she says that one weird purple speedster that just showed up one day. She's talking about the time that Iris got Barry's powers and had purple lightning. You see there's a Flash comic book on her desk from the Flash Museum. It's Flash number 172. It's the one where Cicada tries to steal the Flash's speed using his special lightning-shaped Speed Force dagger. The show has changed a lot of those details, but it's from the Wally West era. It's the Jeff Johns comic book. Number 8, Nora bumps into August Hart for the first time at the Flash Museum while she's studying speedster history. So she looks at the spectrum of lightning. There are actually a couple of colors that aren't on here. Like there's green lightning for Inertia, Thaddeus Thawne, the evil clone of Bart Allen. He had green lightning. There's no orange on here. I think they're just trying to keep it really simple. The Flash TV show plays it really fast and loose with the logic behind why certain speedsters have certain colors of lightning. But you'll remember Robert Picardo's voice on the intercom narrating everything. He's playing Dexter Miles on the TV show. He's the curator of the Flash Museum in the comics. In present day, in the future, Eobard Thawne becomes the curator of the Flash Museum. She goes to Allen's laboratory. That's a reference to the Firestorm comics. It was a lab that was testing drugs on someone that gave them powers, turning them into the villain Goldenrod. Bon Witt, the scientist here, he was the main scientist during that storyline that was using chemicals on people. 7, Nora gets into an accident with Speed Force lightning, just like Barry did. She gets hit with lightning, that gets knocked and crashes into a shelf full of chemicals and gets knocked out cold. She wakes up to the same Lady Gaga song, Poker Face, that Barry woke up to. Her friend finds out about the power dampener Iris put in her. She learns about her powers for the first time the same way that Barry did, like he caught the coffee cup in Jitters. She catches the chip, then just like Barry did at the beginning of the pilot episode, she crashes into the laundry truck on accident. 6, when she's going on her first hero save to use her powers, her friend calls her Flash Woman, Lady Flash. Lady Flash is actually the name of a speedster from the comics. She was from the Soviet Union. She was a member of a group called Blue Trinity. She was a bit of a villain. I think the show has referenced Blue Trinity or maybe Red Trinity before. But the criminals she's trying to catch are Bug and Bite. Those are villains from the Firestorm comics. They're actually named Bug and Bite. When they say Captain Fry is going to be pissed because she broke a couple of cop cars, Captain Fry was the captain of the police department during the New 52 Flash comic book run. Number 5, Nora meets Reverse Flash for the first time, so he explains what the timer is all about. It's counting down to his execution like we all thought at the beginning of the season. There were a couple people that had other theories, but it seemed pretty straight up to me, like he's on death row. They even have one of the guards torture him when Nora's leaving, crackling with red lightning, just to let you know that his condition is terminal, but he plays with her. He plays Nora like a fiddle in the episode, and even though he started the season seeming like he was very remorseful, right now when she comes to see him for the first time, he just seems like he's doing these mental calculations on how he's going to use this situation to his benefit. How am I going to escape using young Barry Allen's daughter? The whole idea here is that she's just trying to get him to train her to catch Godspeed because he's supposed to be the smartest person and know everything about the Speed Force, and there's no way she would be able to catch Godspeed on her own. So a lot of people were wondering about that, like why was she able to take down someone as powerful as Godspeed from the comics? The really interesting thing about their conversation the first time, though, is that they say that it's the first time in 15 years that anyone's come to visit him. So I wonder, who was the last person that came to visit him? Was it somebody from Team Flash, or was it someone else? He also wouldn't reveal how he wound up in prison, so I'm guessing that they'll just reveal that in a future episode. But number 4, Godspeed kills Nora's friend just like Reverse Flash killed Barry's mother. His birth date on the display there reads 16 August 2021. That's actually a reference to the date of the first appearance of August Hart. He debuted in the Flash Rebirth #1, which was released in August 2016. If the voice of Godspeed sounded familiar when he had his costume on and was using his powers, that's because it was B.D. Wong from the Jurassic Park franchise and from Gotham. He plays Hugo Strange on that TV show. The weird thing about Godspeed is they played him like he was a one-off villain in the episode, like, this is kind of disappointing, but why would they cast someone as big as B.D. Wong if they were only going to do him once? Because you could get anybody with a really deep, booming voice, so I think that they have plans for him in the future, but I'll talk about that in a second. Godspeed was a Mercury Labs intern. Mercury Labs, obviously big location on the show during the first couple of seasons. He's trying to recreate a version of Velocity 9 that doesn't have the negative side effects that we saw during Season 2. So it's basically a highlight reel of Season 2 with the Zoom character. There's a reference on here to what he got kicked out of Mercury Labs for, too. He was performing experiments forcing tachyon stimulants on 17 people. That's a reference to his comic book Rebirth storyline. During the very first Flash Rebirth comic book storyline, there's a Speed Force storm that gives a whole bunch of regular people speedster abilities in Central City. Godspeed then goes around killing them all to take their speed. 3, Reverse Flash trains Nora just like he trained Barry during Season 1 of the TV show. She learns that Godspeed is performing all of his experiments at the Get It Tracy Brand building, which is a pretty on-the-nose reference to Tracy Brand from Season 3. I wonder what she's doing now. Reverse Flash gives her the exact same phasing speech that he gave to Barry back during Season 1, but she chickens out at the last second. I think the reason they did that is so that they wouldn't break the timeline of Season 5 of the TV show, because remember, way back during Season 5, Episode 1, Barry taught her how to phase when they were on the plane, so I think they wanted that to be the first time that she ever actually phased something, so that's why this time, when they got later in the season, she chickened out and didn't actually do it. All the Reverse Flash's scenes in the episode were great. There were a couple big complaints that I had about the way they handled the Godspeed character, but I'll talk about that in a second. She winds up defeating Godspeed using the technology, the satellites, on Iris's media building. It's the Central City Citizen Media now, so her newspaper has turned into this big media organization. She was also in the episode as an older 50-something version of Iris who had been in Coast City a la Green Lantern doing a story. But number 2, Nora learns Reverse Flash is eating his last meal. Like, they really hammer home, like, he's eating Big Belly Burger, of course, because it's his last meal before they get ready to execute him. I'm out of time. Sorry, can't help you. Nora starts freaking out, so that lets you know how they really start working together. She goes back in time, and he starts manipulating her so that she'll change the timeline and change what's happening to him right now, giving him a chance to escape. but he sends her to the Flash Museum, tells her to take his Flash ring off of his costume that's on display, use it to enter the Time Vault, which is a treasure trove of Easter eggs of the Flash. There were at least 3 different Flash rings with future versions of the Flash costume in there. You notice she picks up a box labeled Flash Suit version 16 with Choi Industries on it, meaning that Ryan Choi, the future version of the Atom, helped them create the Flash ring, so maybe he'll appear on the TV show in the future. This is the ring that she gave to Barry in episode 1, but in it actually has the original Flash costume. So I don't know if they're trying to call the original Flash costume version 16, but I think what's going on here is that she just swapped the old costume into the ring, so the one that's in version 16 is an actual future version that we haven't seen yet on the TV show. There's also a box with a Flash ring with version 18 and version 19 separately, so those are both future versions of the Flash costume that we'll see eventually on the TV show. All the costumes are from Team Flash, like you notice Killer Frost costume, you notice the Vibe costume, Wally West Flash costume. It's all the costumes from present day pretty much. But you also notice that when she talks to Gideon and gets the message that Barry recorded for her while he was getting ready to die during the original Crisis on Infinite Earths, you notice the red skies behind him, and you probably notice that they cropped the video so that it's just his head and you get like a little bit of his shoulders and the cowl is off. The reason why they did that is so that you wouldn't know what the final version of the Flash costume looks like, because this is supposed to be happening in 2024, meaning that he'll get a bunch of costume upgrades between now and then, and if he had the cowl on, then that would completely give it away, or if the camera zoomed out, you would see exactly what it looked like. So this is them just letting you know, like, oh wow, this is actually what Barry looks like right before he dies. But they're changing a whole bunch of stuff now because it seems like Oliver is the one that's going to die during Crisis on Infinite Earths. So there's just a whole lot of stuff to unpack from this one little scene inside the Time Vault here. Like all these Easter eggs, the future versions of the Flash costume, the red skies that are depicted in the future newspaper, Red Skies Vanish. The number 1, of course, Barry versus Reverse Flash together again. Barry tells Nora that he'll be able to feel her in the Speed Force if she tries to come back, just like Jay Garrick stopped him when he was trying to Flashpoint again during Season 3, Episode 2. Like, oh, I messed it up again, Flashpoint sucks, I'll try this one more time. And Jay Garrick's like, oh, hell no, you're not. Reverse Flash is really interesting in their scene together. He says, dying man's request, don't be too hard on her, and Barry just kind of throws it back in his face, you're finally gonna get what you deserve. So it sounds like her story is a parallel for the Grace story, whereby Orland's actions, just being a super terrible villain, made her become a super terrible villain. So I think the idea is that Barry's actions, being so hardcore the last episode, are gonna push Nora to be more villainous and go a little off the rails. I felt like the Godspeed costume was fine, but I feel like they just need to tune the way they use the character a little bit if he's going to be a future character that comes back every once in a while. So hopefully they'll bring him back either later this season or in a future season. There's a new X-Men Dark Phoenix trailer video that I'll do later today. There's a new Avengers Endgame promo that they released. I'll do a video for that too. Obviously more Game of Thrones.